Hey, what is going on, Miami Dolphins fans? Fins Up Network, Ben Morgan. We finally have gotten the opportunity to do a live stream. I've been wanting to do more and more of these as time goes on, just due to a couple of different factors. Don't always get the chance to do so. So thank you first and foremost to everyone that is watching live. Obviously, you can also watch the replay, so welcome to that audience as well. But today is the first of a couple of Dolphins Bills preview videos. Week 4, the battle for the AFC East lead on the line. Today we're talking latest team news, some latest injury updates, some top matchups to watch for on Sunday. Obviously, since we're going live, any viewer comments, questions, go ahead, throw them in. We'll get to as many of those as possible during the video as well. And then obviously, if you're watching on replay, if you got any questions, any thoughts, go ahead and drop those in the comments as well. I'm going to be doing a final preview and prediction video as well here this week. So go ahead and get those questions submitted, and I will get to those on the final preview and prediction video as well. Let's kick things off, though. Like I said, we got the 3-0 Miami Dolphins traveling to Buffalo, the third road game out of the first 4 games the Dolphins have. But let's start by putting a little bit of a bow on last week. Don't know if you saw it or not, but Devon, it's not A-Chain, believe it or not. Throughout my entire time watching his college tape, watching everything, it was always A-Chain. He has now said it's Achan. So I'm first and foremost going to say I'm going to mess this up. Devon Achan. I've got to try to embed that in my mind. But Achan was named the AFC Offensive Player of the Week. Rightfully so. 18 carries, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns. Added 4 catches, 30 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air. I tell you what, man, we saw it on display. We talked about it all pre-draft process, all offseason, speed that he adds, production that he's added, adds yet another element to an already explosive offense. So we're obviously loving what we're seeing from him as well. But also, he wasn't the only one that won an award, because Tua was also named the FedEx Air Player of the Week, and then Devon Achane got the FedEx Ground Player of the Week. First teammates to sweep that award since Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry in 2020. Sorry, I'm reading the comments as they come in here. Yes, H-Han. I've got to just get rid of the E. If I get rid of the E, I will be golden moving forward. Too bad he didn't change the spelling of his name. Do a little Robbie Chosen with us as well. That's one that will mess up as well. Let's talk about what we saw a little bit on Wednesday in regards to injuries, because we got some good news. Some news that we likely expected, but Jalen Waddle practiced in full. Now, the expectation was, depending on how he responded to that practice, that's kind of that final stage of concussion protocol, and he can get out of protocol. And if and when that happens, he will be ready to go on Sunday. So yeah, Jalen Waddle back after you just scored 70 with Devon Achane's emergence. Sign me up. Hell yeah. I am so looking forward to that. Speaking of injuries, though, no practice Wednesday for Jalen Phillips or Connor Williams. That's something that we're going to have to monitor through the week. But what we saw when Jalen Phillips did miss time against the New England Patriots was more Andrew Van Ginkel lining up on edge, coming around the edge, rather than being middle inside more as a linebacker. And then Liam Eichenberg was at center when Connor Williams was out. And Mike McDaniel talked about Liam Eichenberg, said he stepped in, he rose to the occasion, but you and I know, like, sure, he did fine and everything, but at the end of the day, those snaps, not all of them were on target. Some of them were a little bit high. It seemed like they sort of floated into the air. And when you're playing in an offense that's so timing based and you really want to get the ball out quick, you got to have those snaps coming. And guess what? The Bills can rush the passer. We're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. So having a guy like Liam Eichenberg in the middle is a significant difference than having a guy like Connor Williams in the middle. So we'll have to pay attention to that as well. Did give an update on River Craycraft. That shoulder injury is expected to actually take a little bit of time. Mike McDaniel didn't completely rule out the idea of IR. So where does that leave you? That leaves you, well, we saw a little bit of it last week. It's like, who gets that extended playing time? Cedric Wilson was active for the first time. He got some snaps here and there. Eric Ezukanmo was not. He was a DNP actually in Wednesday's practice as well with a neck. So we'll have to keep that in our vision, in our focus as well to see what the Dolphins end up doing at wide receiver, because do they end up elevating a guy like Robbie Chosen once again? And obviously we know what he did. He made a couple of nice plays. He didn't necessarily look the greatest in blocking. You wouldn't say that that is one of his primary strengths. But regardless, Robbie Chosen, once again, potentially the opportunity to get out there and get some snaps as well. Let us move on to some of the matchups that I am looking forward to watching. The first one I want to talk about is Vic Fangio. Oh, 1 second. There we go. Vic Fangio and the Dolphins defense in containing Josh Allen. And honestly, the matchups I'm going to identify this week, anytime any team plays the Bills, anytime any team plays anyone, these are some pretty obvious ones, but there's a reason why these obvious ones are just accentuated, highlighted when you play against a team like the Buffalo Bills. So the quarterbacks of the Dolphins, Vic Fangio has faced, strategized for, schemed for so far: Justin Herbert, Mac Jones, Russell Wilson. All of those guys can move, but none of those guys are the threat to run, to escape, quite to the extent that Josh Allen is. Russell Wilson was at one point in time. He's not that at this point in his career. But what's the Fins' previous issue with a guy like Josh Allen? Man, last year we couldn't stop Josh Allen. We couldn't stop Lamar Jackson. Those kind of guys. And it's not even just their outright running and their yardage totals, but it's the idea that the play is over. We've done our job in coverage. Maybe we've gotten around the edge and he's flushed out of the pocket. Problem is Josh Allen becomes one of almost like a better quarterback when he's outside of the pocket, when he's ad-libbing a little bit, and when your secondary has to break down because you simply can't stick with these guys forever. Stephon Diggs is no slouch. Gabe Davis is no slouch. So you got to have a strategy for getting to Josh Allen, finishing Josh Allen, and how do you contain him from escaping the pocket? And the biggest thing, extending drives. You got to force them into punts. Look up the punt information. The Dolphins and Bills basically have punted less than any single teams in the league. So when I personally look at this one, I think, you know what? Josh Allen is so damn good when you're outside of the pocket. Where do you need to get that pressure from? Well, you got to come with your edges and you got to maintain. You can't overrun the play, but outside of that, you got to get that pressure up the middle. Go back to week one. And I know week one's always a little bit tricky. Not every team is playing too flawlessly in week one, but week one, when the Jets played the Bills, they were getting containment on the outside. They were getting pressure up the middle. They were simply getting right into Josh Allen's face. What happened? Dude was flustered. He tried playing hero ball. That's a big terminology that you're going to see with Josh Allen. He lives and dies by that arm. He believes in it because it's so damn strong, and rightfully so. But when he plays hero ball, if you can get into his face, that's where the poor decision-making comes. That's where the turnovers can come. That's where the opportunity to steal drives come. So my theory on that one is get into his face up the middle while containing on the edges. I want to check and see what we've got. Before I get into my next one, I want to throw up a couple of comments here, like I said I would do. Chosen adds another dimension to our offense, but he does need to block better and help his teammates after plays. 100%. And that's the biggest thing. And maybe that just comes down to not being able to get as many reps with the ones in practice. But yeah, we talked about when Jalen Waddle had to sit, who was going to step up. Well, it's like, well, you know what? Maybe a guy like Robbie Chosen gets the call because he's got the speed. He's got the ability to take the top off the defense, a la a Jalen Waddle. So that was huge. And obviously we saw it come to fruition with Mike White when the game was already in hand. But regardless, definitely adds another dimension, especially when we're out a guy such as Jalen Waddle there. I got one here. Please discuss rookie Cam Smith. Do you like how he is developing? Well, the issue is we haven't been able to see him enough. And that's the thing. And there's probably a variety of reasons as to why he hasn't been able to be on the field at this point in time, basically just kind of relegated to like special teams duty. Wasn't even active this last week. We're not going to go into too many more details or speculate or anything quite on that. I know that Vic Fangio was high on him. I know that the coaching staff was high on him. It's all there for him. Remember, he did have an injury in preseason. That kind of hindered ability to get up to speed, especially when it was, Ramsey's hurt as well. We need a guy to step in. They're going to rely on guys like Eli Apple and Justin Bethel, those guys that have been there and done that. And for them, Justin Bethel played lights out this last week. So I love the way he played. Let Cam Smith let him get right, when it's health, whether it's game plan, whatever it ends up being. Mike McDaniel even talked about the defensive backs might come down to the game plan team by team. So keep an eye out for Cam Smith. I know the team is really happy with him. He's got that fight in him. He's got that dog in him. He just needs to make sure he's not getting too grabby or over aggressive like he was in that preseason game. I forgot which one it was, but the second half started off with a bomb touchdown to him. I will keep continuing to go through questions and comments. Let me go to my next key to the game here. And this is, I strategically wrote the offensive line and Tua versus the Buffalo Bills pass rush. And you'll find out why I added that kind of caveat here in a second, because the Miami Dolphins offensive line, holy cow, Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer were right. We were more worried than they were. But that comes with a couple of qualifiers because, all right, skill, performance, they're not the most talented offensive line in the league by any means. And they just got Teron Armstead back. So prior to Teron Armstead being back, they weren't even close to the talent level that they were this last week. But through all of that, they've allowed one sack that they've allowed. But that's where this caveat comes in. One, they've been playing good. Isaiah Wynn has been playing really good at left guard. Austin Jackson's been a nice surprise at right tackle. Robert Hunt at right guard, dude's been looking really good. That Pro Bowl is within striking distance, and obviously Teron Armstead played well. But where that caveat comes in and why I added Tua, what does he continue to lead the league in? Well, it's getting out the ball fast. I think he's still number one in the next gen stats of by the time the ball gets to him from the snap to the time it's out of his hand, he is still number one in the league, at least based on the last time I checked. So the Dolphins offensive line playing well, Tua getting rid of the ball fast. The offense is clicking a lot because of those things. But enter the Buffalo Bills, who have 11 sacks on the season. But guess what? Nine sacks last week against the Washington Commanders. Now, there's a couple of things that come along with that. One, Sam Howell, young, inexperienced, not at the level of Tua by any means, was holding onto the ball a little bit long, not hitting receivers right away like he should have been against a veteran defense like the Bills. But also, their offensive line, I believe they've given up the most sacks in the entire NFL so far this year. Offensive line looked terrible. I watched a lot of replays of all of their sacks. Offensive line did Sam Howell no favors as well. But the thing is, the Bills were mixing up how they were doing it. They were doing it via the blitz. They were doing it naturally with the edge rushers flying off the edge. They were getting pressure up the middle. They got their 9 sacks in a variety of ways. But the thing is, not only were they getting the sacks, finishing with the sacks, but those sacks, those quarterback pressures, that leads to the bad decision makings. That leads to the turnovers. Just like what we said, Josh Allen, week 1 against the Bills. A lot of turnovers, a lot of sacks, a lot of bad decisions. The Washington Commanders threw 4 interceptions to the Bills last week. They got 4. They've got 7 on the season. So that's not necessarily a team that you want to be messing around with. You want your offense to be clicking, but good thing for us, that is what we have been doing this year. So yes, it's going to be on Tua once again to get the ball out quick. It's going to be on the offensive line once again to hold up and hold those blocks. Because if at some point things are going to break down, you're going to need to extend a play. If one thing we know about Tua, he's done a better job of kind of killing a play and living to see the next day. But at some point in time, that's going to come out of him as well, and he's going to want to extend the play. So we're going to need the offensive line to step up again. And then last but certainly not least, just being able to run the ball the way we have the last couple of weeks. It's been incredible how much that can help you offensively in regards to your protection, in regards to what you can scheme, in regards to what you can just simply run on offense. So that's an added bonus that we have as well. I got a comment here. Team and Fangio loves Cam Smith. He has the ability to be an all-pro if he gets his fundamentals down. Yeah, the guy's a ball hawk. He's super aggressive, and that's the thing. It's like the aggressiveness can help you and hurt you. So I think it's probably more likely that it can hurt you at some points in time when you're a rookie because you want to get out there, you want to make the big play. Maybe you go a little bit off script, but yes, once he gets those fundamentals down, as you said there, get those fundamentals down. Play when you're not just thinking, but you're just basically reacting on your instincts. Cam Smith, I think, has the potential to be a good one for sure. Let's see here. I like this feeling here. Feeling are probably mutual with most everybody, but I can't stand the Bills. And yeah, I think that we can't stand the Bills. The Bills probably can't stand us either. I was thinking back to last year's games against the Bills, and the first one I think it was like that week 3, week 4 matchup where it was the sun. It was the sun game, and the Bills had that. But remember the time of possession, just complete difference. The Bills ran like 90 some plays. The Dolphins were dog tired and they had to play on Thursday night after that. That was the game we won. That had that crazy finish. And then at the second game, which was it turned into a snow game. It wasn't the worst weather. It ended up turning into snow. That's the one we lost. But man, we played well. I've got some Tua numbers from those games that I'll talk about in the past. But man, we had some great regular season matchups against them. And then obviously in the playoffs, double-digit dogs. Damn, we were winning in the third, fourth quarter. Almost pulled that one off with Skylar Thompson at the helm. So yeah, the feeling is mutual. I think they hate us. We're at the point where we're the top teams for the division. With Aaron Rodgers out of the picture, with the Patriots just kind of continuing to just sink lower and lower. It's Dolphins, Bills. This is what it is. It's funny. I love the 1:00 start, so I'm more than thrilled about this. But everyone's like, this is prime time. This needs to be Sunday night. This needs to be Monday night. If there was ever a flex, you could guarantee this one would be in there. Let's see. I didn't hear anyone really talk about Xavier Howard's interception and how it moves him up to 35 all-time Dolphins interceptions. He could catch that stat or even pass it up. Yeah, the crazy thing about X, man, he had that run. He absolutely had that run where he went, he had 10 plus, was it 2 years in a row or 2 out of 3 years, whatever it was. The guy has just been a turnover machine, which is kind of funny. I'll admit something here that when he was drafted, I was like, I wasn't huge on his tape. If you look at Baylor's defense in those times, they weren't always the greatest defenses. Like, feels like a little bit of a reach, but man, I'll own. I will absolutely own that one. Loved Xavier Howard ever since he's come in and continued to be, I don't want to call him outright shut down. He's not going to get that Darrelle Revis Island name thrown at him by any means, but at the end of the day, he has been as good of locking down as a cornerback as we've seen with this team. He's in that conversation with Sam Madison, with Pat Surtain. He really should get that. We got a question here. Is Waddle playing? We touched on this in the beginning, but I'll just reiterate. Practice in full today. If he responds well to that practice, that'll essentially elevate him from concussion protocol, meaning that he will, yes, play on Sunday. So as of now, you can basically bank on that happening. He had a correction here, 30 interceptions. It's all good. I couldn't even fact check you the way I'm running it today. I talked about those Tua stats here. So in 2022, if you combine the two games, Tua went 30 of 48 for 420 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Efficient? Very much so. It's funny, if you look at that game, 30 of 48 for 420, 3 touchdowns, that's like one very awesome game. But if you remember, we hardly had the ball. We hardly had the ball in that first matchup against them. So that's kind of a reason why we only threw the ball 48 times. 420 yards is only, 210 a game, 3 touchdowns. But what he was doing, though, in those games was very efficient, moving the ball, kept us in the game at the end, won the first one. Obviously, like I said, lost the last one. But the interesting stuff, I saw this on Twitter today. In those games, the Buffalo Bills blitzed Tua on 30.8% of his dropbacks. For the entire season last year, the Bills blitzed opponents' quarterbacks on 18.8% of their dropbacks. So obviously, what was the Bills' strategy last year, at least defensively? Getting to Tua, trying to put that pressure on Tua. But what we've seen so far this year is like, man, if you blitz Tua, he's been identifying it so fast, and he's always had that hot receiver. Blitzing hasn't been working. But if you drop back in coverage, whether it's man, whether it's zone, whatever it ends up being, really the only mistakes we've seen from Tua so far are the 2 interceptions. Has he really had a bad play outside of those? Not necessarily. I mean, especially not on like a live look where if he could go back, maybe he'd hit a different receiver, but it hasn't been like a turnover worthy creation type of play. So the guy has been playing lights out. So it's going to be very curious to see how the Bills end up going with their strategy of trying to get to Tua this week. Sorry, I'm just looking at the comments here. Score prediction. So I'm gonna say one thing right now. I'll spoil one thing for my final preview and prediction video. I will have the Miami Dolphins moving to 4-0. I just don't have a score prediction yet. I'm going to hit the score prediction in the final preview and prediction video. So like I said, if you've got any questions that you would like for that video, go ahead and drop them in the comments. I like this here. Nice. I need Waddle in fantasy with him benched last week. I had another 190 points from Mostert, Tua, and Hill. First and foremost, love your team. If the Dolphins keep rolling, you're going to do just fine. So gotta love that. Yeah, I think Raheem Mostert, I think, is like the #1 fantasy scorer this year. Hill's either 2 or 3, and then Tua's up there as well. Basically, and I know fantasy is a lot different than regular football, but man, when you've got like 3 guys in the top 5 of all fantasy scoring, you're doing something right on offense. Let's see what we've got here. Ben, besides Jonathan Taylor, have you heard of any trade that the Dolphins are interested in, especially a team that looks really bad right now? The Bears, Panthers, Jets, Vikings, others. No, honestly, I have not, so I'm not even really going to speculate on that one. You would think that a team like the Jets might not be as willing to trade within the division, but Kirk Cousins is obviously being potentially rumored to be floated around by the Vikings. With the Panthers, you've got a veteran receiver like Adam Thielen, but at the end of the day, the Dolphins don't really have a need for either of those type of players. So I am like I said, rather than speculating on this one, I'll probably just sit that one out. I also do not have a weather update for that one. I'm sorry about that one. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to accomplish with this video today. But like I said, if you got any other questions that you would like added for the preview and prediction video, go ahead and drop those in. Thanks first and foremost, like I said, to everyone that was able to tune in live. Would love to do more of these moving forward. It's all a timing thing with me and my weeks of preparation. So thank you first and foremost to everyone that was able to tune in live. I will be doing more and more of these, like I said, as time persists. I do have one more question that came in here. Update on Jalen Ramsey. Nothing new. It's status quo, at least based on what I have heard. Still targeting that November, December time range. But I tell you what, the way that Howard is playing, the way that Cater Kohu is playing, if Cam Smith can get out there. Eli Apple's had his ups and downs, but he's held it together. We saw Nickerson play all right last week. We saw Justin Bethel play really well last week. We've got some guys that are really stepping in. So it's very, very promising that we've yet to unleash Cam Smith. And we've still got Jalen Ramsey waiting in the holster. So we've got all that coming, and we've still been able to hold it down so far. Let's see. I got another one here. If they keep coming in, I'll just keep going for a while. Is Mike White quarterback 2 now over Skylar Thompson? The answer to that is yes. Based on offseason, training camp, preseason, and then what we've seen so far in the regular season, there's no reason to believe that Skylar Thompson would have eclipsed Mike White as the quarterback 2. So yeah, Mike White as of right now is quarterback 2. I love it. Tua Tagovailoa, the Samoan sniper, MVP leading candidate for me. That is I'm not that going on record on that as anything to brag about right now, but I tell you what, it'd be hard. Him, Jalen Hurts, obviously Mahomes is going to be in the conversation at the end of the day. You got a couple of other guys that'll probably get their way into there. But as of right now, you got an undefeated team playing historically good on offense. The quarterback of that team is going to win the MVP. Let's see here. Oh, I got a request here. Can you please sing the Miami Dolphins fight song when you turn off the stream? Whew, I don't know. I haven't had enough of these yet, I don't think, for that. Miami has the Dolphins. Yeah, you know the rest. You exactly know the rest. Like I said, though, I am going to wrap it up right there. Longer than a typical video, but with a live stream, I'm happy to have as many thoughts, questions, comments come in as possible. Let's do it again in the near future. And like I said, if you haven't watched this live, go ahead, drop your questions in the comments for that final preview and prediction video. That is what I've got for today, though, Dolphins fans. Until next time, fins up.